had a child, and now I have a 4-year-old little girl, and we're going around the world, and it's going to be very different because I now understand that bedtime takes over an hour.
We think we'd recognize our favorite stars anywhere, but the truth is, being a celebrity is just a costume. When the world's biggest icons strip away the designer labels and the security guards, they become invisible to us.
We don't really know much about you. Who are you?
I tend to keep myself to myself a lot. I'm not on social media in any shape or form, just because I find it much more relaxing.
From A-list rappers getting roasted to their faces, to legendary actors losing their own lookalike contests, these stars proved that fame is often just a matter of context. In this video, we're counting down 14 celebrities who went completely unrecognized in public. To begin our countdown, we have a music titan who learned that fame doesn't protect you from insults, especially when people have no idea they're actually talking to a total global legend. Let's dive into this truly hilarious and awkward undercover street mission. 14. Drake, the Lie Witness News Roast. Back in 2014, Drake was already one of the biggest names in music. However, he decided to see what people really thought of him when the stage lights were off. So, he teamed up with Jimmy Kimmel for a segment called Lie Witness News. To pull this off, he went through a total transformation. He put on a thick fake beard, a wig, and a pair of glasses. He even changed his name to Kyle. Standing on Hollywood Boulevard, he looked like any other local news reporter trying to get a soundbite from tourists. The plan was for Kyle to ask people for their honest opinions on Drake, and it was a total bombshell. Since the pedestrians had no clue they were talking to the man himself, they did not hold back. One person claimed Drake was actually an actor rather than a real rapper. Another interviewee went even further, calling him a chicken head. The most shocking moment happened when a man agreed to perform a diss track right to Drake's face, outrightly saying, "Drake, I think you suck." It was a bizarre scene because the world's biggest artist was standing there, nodding along to lyrics meant to tear him down. Most people in that position would get defensive or walk away. However, Drake stayed completely in character with impressive poise. When the reveal finally happened, the atmosphere shifted instantly. The transition from Kyle back to the 6ix god left the haters speechless. It literally dawned on them that they had just insulted a superstar to his face, and it was not a prank for a late-night show. It was pretty much a fascinating look at how much a simple disguise can change our perception of reality. Even a global icon can become invisible if they change their hair and pick up a microphone. While Drake uses a disguise to find out what the public really think of him, another man discovers that even telling the truth isn't enough to be believed. 13. Rowan Atkinson, the better-looking Mr. Bean. As we all know, Rowan Atkinson possesses one of the most recognizable faces in the history of comedy. Through his character, Mr. Bean, he became a global sensation without saying much at all. His physical humor is so iconic that you would expect him to be recognized in every corner of the planet. Despite this, he often manages to live a quiet life in the United Kingdom. One day, he was running a mere errand at a Land Rover parts shop. He was not wearing a disguise or trying to hide. He was just being himself while looking for specific items for his vehicle. A fan eventually noticed him and approached with a look of surprise. Atkinson recalled the fan saying, "Excuse me, has anyone told you that you are the absolute spitting image of Mr. Bean?" In a rare move, Atkinson decided to be completely honest with the stranger. He told the man that he actually was the actor who played the legendary character. Instead of being excited, the fan laughed the comment off as a joke and said, "I bet you wish you were." The situation turned into a true comedy of errors. When the fan told him he looked like the character, but was actually better looking than the real guy. Atkinson tried for several minutes to convince the man of his identity, yet the fan remained skeptical. Eventually, the man walked away convinced he had met a very convincing impersonator who had a great sense of humor, still stating that the resemblance is uncanny. This interaction highlights a strange irony. Despite being a public figure, Atkinson can still navigate society without drawing a crowd because people do not expect a superstar to be standing in a dusty car parts shop. 12. Tony Hawk, the TSA legend. As one of the most successful athletes in history, Tony Hawk has a very strange relationship with his own fame. His name is known by almost everyone who has ever touched a skateboard. Still, he has become even more famous on the internet for the times people fail to realize who he is. He maintains a long-running social media thread where he documents these bizarre encounters. One of the most legendary stories took place at an airport security checkpoint. A TSA agent checking his ID remarked, "Hawk? Like that skateboarder Tony Hawk. Cool. I wonder what he's up to these days." Tony's internal response and tweet caption were simply this. As always, the confusion never seems to end for him. Because Tony Hawk's legal name is Anthony Frank Hawk, the name on his driver's license often creates the first bar of confusion for security agents. In June 2018, an agent checked his ID, looked at him quizzically, and loudly declared, "Tony Hawk's my favorite skater." Tony simply replied, "I'll tell him." With this same last name encounter, another agent once stared intently at him, first guessing he was cyclist Lance Armstrong. Upon checking the ID, the agent noted, "Oh, you look like that skateboarder. Same last name too. Crazy!" To which Tony agreed. This happens because of the way fans perceive action sports stars. For years, the world saw Tony Hawk through a television screen while he was wearing a helmet and pads. When the gear comes off, and he is wearing a simple hoodie in a regular setting, the human brain has a hard time making the connection. Unlike movie stars, who are often followed by cameras and security, skaters like Tony can often blend into a crowd by just being normal. It shows that fame is often about the environment, because if a person is not in a stadium or on a ramp, people do not expect to see them. Whether it's a fake beard or a prosthetic chin, most stars spent thousands to stay hidden. But as we're about to see, sometimes you don't even need a disguise to be ignored. You just need to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. 11. Kesha, the rejected red carpet hug. Getting rejected by a stranger is tough, but getting rejected on a red carpet while the whole world is watching is a different level of pain. In 2017, Kesha found herself in the middle of a viral nightmare that she likely never saw coming. She was attending a high-profile charity event and spotted one of her heroes, comedy legend Jerry Seinfeld. Being a massive fan, she did what most people would do in that situation. She walked up to him with a huge smile, interrupted his interview, and asked for a hug. What happened next became one of the most painful and awkward moments to watch in the history of the internet. Do you know that Jerry Seinfeld did not recognize her at all? In fact, he gave a flat refusal and actually backed away from her as if she were a total stranger. But Kesha did not give up easily, though. She tried 2 more times, practically pleading for a quick embrace. Each time, Seinfeld shut her down with a cold, "No thanks." It was a classic case of mistaken identity and a total lack of awareness. To the rest of the world, she was a multi-platinum pop star with global hits. To Jerry, she was a random person in a crowd who had breached his personal space during a professional moment. He later explained that he does not hug total strangers and genuinely had no clue who she was at the time. This specific moment highlights how much context and timing matter in the world of celebrity. Because Kesha was dressed somewhat casually and caught him off guard, she became invisible to appear. As usual, the internet exploded with memes of the interaction. But Kesha eventually handled the situation with a lot of grace. She even found some comfort later when she got a healing hug from another one of her musical idols, Bob Dylan. It definitely showed that even if one legend does not know your name, another one might be waiting to give you the recognition you deserve. 10. Katy Perry, the birthday party crasher. While Kesha was trying her best to be seen, Katy Perry was doing everything in her power to be ignored. For a music video, she decided to pull off an ambitious social experiment that went far beyond a simple prank. She went through hours of professional makeup to become 5 different characters that most people would find annoying or forgettable. She transformed into a failed Vegas showgirl named Goldie, a crude clown called Chris, and a princess for hire named Mandy. These were not just the regular costumes. They were total transformations designed to see how people treat low-level entertainers when they have no idea a superstar is standing right in front of them. But, during this filming, Katy Perry actually crashed a real birthday party while staying completely in character. As Chris the Clown, she staged a fake car accident and acted completely unhinged in front of children. As Goldie the showgirl, she was incredibly obnoxious and even ate food directly off the plates of surprised guests. However, the reactions from the crowds were far from welcoming. People were genuinely annoyed, frustrated, and even angry at her behavior. In one instance, she dressed as a princess named Mandy and tried to entertain a group of kids. Instead of being mobbed by fans, she was completely ignored and treated like a cheap performer who was not doing a very good job. In another instance, Katy Perry staged an art exhibit in the Whitney Museum. It was a literal promotion of the Bon Appetit single music video, featuring Perry's head served on a platter surrounded by fruit. Guests were told that they were viewing a site-specific installation by an artist named Catherine Hudson. With this, they didn't even think it was even Katy Perry. But once the guests realized they were standing next to one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, their entire attitude changed. It remains one of the most creative ways a celebrity has ever tested the boundaries of their own public image, while proving that we often look right past the person behind the mask. 9. Gordon Ramsay, the undercover critic. Everyone knows Gordon Ramsay as the guy who screams about raw chicken and dirty kitchens. He has built a massive career on being the loud, angry chef who takes no nonsense from anyone. However, there was a time when he decided to trade his white chef's jacket for a heavy camera and a very convincing disguise. He wanted to hear the unfiltered truth about his own personality from regular people on the street. To do this, he did not walk into a restaurant. Instead, he hid behind the lens of a professional camera as part of a fake film crew. While wearing a cap and glasses, Ramsay began interviewing pedestrians about their thoughts on the famous chef. He was standing right in front of them, yet nobody suspected a thing. He listened patiently as people described him as being too harsh and overly aggressive. Some even noted that he yells too much. But the most memorable part of this experiment happened when he spoke to one woman who was clearly not a fan of his television persona. When the disguised Ramsay asked for her honest opinion, she did not hold back at all. She looked right at the cameraman and told him that Gordon Ramsay was so rude that he should kiss her ass. Most people would expect Ramsay to explode at a comment like that. Instead, he stayed perfectly in character and kept the camera rolling. He took the insult directly to his face while maintaining his disguise. Once he had gathered enough footage, he decided it was finally time to reveal the truth. He immediately took off his cap and glasses right there on the sidewalk. The atmosphere shifted from awkward to electric in a matter of seconds. The woman's face showed total disbelief as she realized the man she had just insulted was standing 2 feet away. The situation did not end in a shouting match. In a surprising twist, the fiery chef broke into a wide smile and walked over to give the woman a big hug. She was laughing and clearly embarrassed by what she had said. However, she admitted that meeting him was an incredible experience. She even noted that the surprise had made her entire day. This encounter revealed a different side of the world's most feared critic. It shows that behind the loud voice and the tough exterior, Ramsay has a great sense of humor and a genuine appreciation for his fans. It's one thing to be told you look like yourself, but it's a whole different level of embarrassment when you enter a contest dedicated to you and lose. The next 3 names prove that sometimes the real deal isn't convincing enough. 8. Henry Cavill, the Times Square test. Comic book fans have spent decades arguing about whether a pair of glasses is enough to hide the secret identity of Superman. It seems impossible that a simple accessory could fool an entire city full of people. Henry Cavill decided to settle this debate once and for all with a daring experiment in the heart of New York City. He went to Times Square, which is one of the most crowded places on the planet. He did not put on a mask or even the famous glasses. Instead, he stood directly beneath a massive 50-foot billboard for his own movie. To make the test even more difficult for himself, he was wearing a navy blue t-shirt with the Superman logo right on his chest. Even though his face was towering over the street on every side, the result was shocking. He spent a significant amount of time walking around the subway stations and even grabbed a coffee at a busy Starbucks. Thousands of people walked past him, and not a single person stopped him for a photo. People were busy checking their phones or looking at the bright lights, but they never realized that the man from the movie posters was standing right next to them. Cavill even filmed the whole process to show how invisible he actually was. This is a perfect example of a psychological concept called inattentional blindness. He later posted it on his Instagram with the caption, "Dear Doubter, the glasses are good enough. Regards, Superman." The funny thing about the human brain is that it is designed to filter out information that it does not expect to see. When people are commuting through a busy city, they expect to see other commuters and tourists. They do not expect a global movie star to be standing on the sidewalk without a team of security guards or a red carpet. Because he was acting like a regular person in a mundane environment, people simply failed to notice him. If a man can stand under his own giant face in Manhattan and go unnoticed, then a secret identity might be easier to keep than the world ever imagined. 7. Dolly Parton, the lookalike loser. Most people spend their lives trying to be someone else, but one country legend actually failed at being herself. Imagine having a face that is printed on millions of albums and a style that is recognized by everyone on the planet, but people still fail to recognize you. Dolly Parton is a global icon who has spent decades perfecting her look. However, she once decided to enter a Dolly Parton lookalike contest at a drag club in Santa Monica to see if she could actually win. She was curious if she could blend into a crowd of people who were all trying to imitate her signature style. To make sure she fit in with the drag queens who were competing, she decided to over-exaggerate every single detail. She added extra height to her already massive wig and applied layers of makeup that were even thicker than her usual stage look. She entered the competition anonymously, thinking she would surely take home the trophy. After all, she was the original source of inspiration. The result was a total shock that nobody saw coming. Dolly did not win the contest. In fact, she did not even place in the top 3. The judges looked at the actual Dolly Parton and decided she was too small. They told her that she did not resemble the real star enough. It was a bizarre and hilarious moment where the imitation was considered more authentic than the person who created the look in the first place. The most hilarious part is that Dolly Parton actually lost to a man. She took the loss with her famous sense of humor and later shared the story with a big smile, noting the irony of the situation. She famously remarked that it was a good thing she was a girl, or she would have come in last place. It remains one of the funniest examples of a star being hidden by their own massive reputation. 6. Adele. Jenny, the Adele impersonator. Adele possesses a voice that is so distinct that most people could recognize it from a single note. It is a powerful force that has dominated the music industry for years. Because she is so famous, she wanted to know if she could successfully hide that talent and become someone else for a day. She partnered with the BBC for a special project where she went undercover as a nervous Adele impersonator named Jenny. She sat through hours of professional makeup where artists applied prosthetic pieces to her chin and nose to change the structure of her face. They even altered the shape of her lips to make her look like a completely different person. As Jenny, she practiced a slow and heavy walk that was the opposite of her natural movement. She joined a group of other impersonators who were all waiting backstage to audition for a fake show. Adele stayed in character the entire time, pretending to be incredibly anxious about the performance. She even gave a fake story about being a nanny, and also pretended to miss her cue when it was her turn to step onto the stage. The other performers felt deep sympathy for her and tried to offer kind words to help her through the nerves. They had no idea they were talking to the woman they had spent years trying to copy. The real magic happened when she finally stepped up to the microphone. She started by singing the opening lines of "Make You Feel My Love" with a shaky, amateur tone. Then, in an instant, she let the full power of her voice out. The transformation in the room was electric. You could see the exact moment the truth hit the other women. Their faces went from pity to total shock and disbelief. Some started to cry, while others stood there with their mouths open. They realized that while a person can change their face or their walk, world-class talent is something that cannot be hidden once the music starts. From losing lookalike contests to hiding under prosthetics, these stars chose to go unnoticed. But for the next few celebrities, the disguise was simply a mask or a casual outfit at the world's biggest pop culture events. 5. Hugh Jackman, the too-tall Wolverine. Walking through the massive halls of San Diego Comic-Con is usually a dangerous game for a Hollywood A-lister. For someone like Hugh Jackman, who has been the face of the X-Men for nearly 2 decades, it should be impossible to move an inch without a security team. However, the actor discovered a secret weapon that is more effective than any bodyguard. It is known in the community as the cosplay shield. He decided to put on a full, movie-accurate Wolverine costume and walk right into the middle of the crowded convention floor. He expected the fans to lose their minds the moment they saw those iconic claws. The reality was far more humbling. Instead of being mobbed by thousands of people, Jackman spent the entire day being criticized by the very fans who claimed to love him. Because Comic-Con is filled with thousands of people in incredible costumes, nobody expected the real actor to be standing there in a suit. One fan actually walked up to him, looked him up and down, and gave him a piece of his mind. The stranger told Jackman that the costume was not bad, but he was simply too tall to be the real Wolverine. In the original Marvel comics, The character is famously only 5 feet and 3 inches tall. Jackman is over 6 feet tall, so he was effectively disqualified from being himself by a dedicated fan. 4. Bryan Cranston, the Walter White mask. Bryan Cranston pulled off a stunt that felt like a lost scene from Breaking Bad. He decided to test the limits of his fame at a massive convention by hiding behind a mask of his own face. He used a high-quality latex piece that perfectly captured every wrinkle and detail of his character, Walter White in Breaking Bad. Cranston spent hours walking through the crowded hallways of the convention center, standing right next to fans who were wearing Heisenberg t-shirts and hats. To keep the secret alive, he even changed the way he spoke. Whenever a fan approached him for a photo, he used a high-pitched voice to hide his natural deep baritone. People thought they were meeting a very dedicated fan who had spent a lot of money on a realistic costume. They stood shoulder to shoulder with the man who played one of the most famous characters in television history without ever suspecting the truth. But even as the craftsmanship of the mask was so good, the actor still heard, "You even sound like Bryan Cranston," from the crowd. Finally, the big reveal happened during the official Breaking Bad panel in front of a massive audience. Cranston sat on stage with the mask still on, and when he finally took it off, the room erupted in total shock. Everyone then realized they had been standing in line with him or walking past him all afternoon, and for a few hours, the man who was the danger became another face in the crowd. 3. Mick Jagger, the Thirsty Beaver incident. The night before a massive stadium tour stop in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the biggest rock stars on the planet decided to grab a drink in a quiet place. Mick Jagger has spent over 60 years in the spotlight as the frontman of the Rolling Stones. You would think that his face would be impossible to miss in a crowded room. However, he walked right into a local dive bar called the Thirsty Beaver Saloon without any fanfare. He did not bring a large security team or demand a private booth. Instead, he simply grabbed a stool outside on the patio and ordered a cold beer. A photo of that night eventually went viral and shocked the entire internet. The picture shows Jagger casually sipping his drink while a group of locals stands only a few feet behind him. Not a single person in the background was even looking his way. They were busy talking and enjoying their evening, completely unaware that a music legend was sitting right there. How exactly did Mick Jagger go unnoticed in that bar? We never can tell. While some stars hide in bars or at conventions, others have found themselves unrecognized in the most high-stakes situations imaginable. Let's look at who is next on our list. 2. Charlie Chaplin, the third-place legend. Charlie Chaplin created the most recognizable character in the history of early cinema. His persona, known as the Little Tramp, was famous for his baggy pants, small mustache, and unique way of walking. Because the character was a global phenomenon, lookalike contests began popping up in theaters all over the world. People would dress up and try their best to imitate his specific movements and facial expressions. In a story that has become a legendary piece of Hollywood history, Chaplin decided to enter one of these contests himself to see if he could actually win. He entered the competition anonymously, without telling the judges or the audience who he really was. He assumed that as the creator of the character, he would be the obvious choice for first place. However, the results were a massive blow to his ego. In the most famous version of the story, Chaplin did not even make it to the top of the list. Some reports claim he came in 20th place, while others say he managed to get third. Either way, he was defeated by people who were pretending to be him. Finally, number 1 brings us to a man who seemingly does weird things to the crowd and zooms off before they react. Who could that be? 1. Bill Murray. No one will ever believe you, Bill Murray exists in a category of fame that borders on urban legend. Most celebrities try to avoid attention, but he seems to enjoy creating moments that feel like a fever dream for his fans. There is a famous story that has circulated through New York City for years about him walking up to total strangers in public. He will reportedly lean over, steal a French fry right off their plate, and eat it without saying a word. Before the shocked person can even react, he whispers a specific sentence into their ear. He tells them that no one will ever believe you, before he disappears back into the crowd. This has happened so many times that it has become a core part of his public image. This unpredictable behavior is exactly what makes him so hard to recognize in the real world. After a while, he became recognized as Bill Murray. And when asked about it during an interview, his response was, "Come on, it's New York. There's a lot of excess here. There's plenty of food." Murray proves that the best way to stay hidden is to do something so normal that nobody expects a celebrity to be doing it. From Drake's street roasts to Dolly Parton losing to her own lookalikes, these stories prove that fame isn't always a golden ticket. Which of these encounters shocked you the most? And if you saw a celebrity in disguise, would you recognize them? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To enjoy more content like this, tap on the next video on your screen.